So now what we're going to do is we're actually going to go through each of those different cultures. And what I want you to be thinking about is, okay, I want to understand each of these, but I also want you to be thinking about the culture of your organization now, where it is now, where you think it is, and where you want it to be. Because that's what this is all about, right? It's that, hey, we have a culture and maybe we want to maintain it. That's great. Think about how we can maintain it. Or maybe, hey, we want to introduce some creative elements or some collaborative elements. Great. And hopefully you'll walk away with some ideas about how to do that too. So the first one that we're going to focus on is the collaborate culture, or the clan culture. And basically what it is it's a culture focused on the role of people within an organization to strengthen it, support each other, and enhance efficiency. So it's all about people. It's about relationships. It's about the way that people interact with each other. So, to kind of illustrate this, I also want to say that, you can have a culture of an organization, like big organization. So, for example, Walmart. But within Walmart, there would also be small teams, right? And so the story I'm going to share is actually a group that I worked with, where it was a group that had been working together for a long time in a logistics aspect for Walmart. And I was having a kind of a session with them where we were talking about culture and how to maintain and create culture. And it was kind of a bland session, to be honest. Like they were giving me all the answers that they knew that I wanted about, things that they could do, actions they could take. And then we started talking a little bit more about personal experiences they had had with culture. And the manager in the organization actually said this. He said, I want to share an experience. He said, when I was, when I first became manager for this team, he said that his wife got cancer. And he said, when my wife got cancer, it was really hard. And I told the team that it was going to make me take some time off. And he said they did what any good team would do. They asked if they could offer some of their sick days. And he said that really illustrated the culture to me. And he said, and that was meaningful. But he said the thing that was most meaningful is that they all got together and they made a quilt for his wife. And he said it was something so small, but he said that quilt meant more to me and my wife when we were going through this experience than anything else. Now, that's a cool story, because it illustrates this kind of collaborate, hey, we want to do this together, we're here with you, whether it's in work or outside of work. But what was even more powerful to me was after the manager had shared that story about what a collaborate culture looked like to him, other people jumped in. And the conversation was so much more meaningful, more personal experiences, deeper discussion about what that collaborate culture would look like. And that's how you get to a collaborate culture. It's when people are open with each other. It's when there's an end goal that we're all trying to accomplish, when we understand that people are people. And to me, that kind of illustrates this. And so that's what we're shooting for, is that we want to work together as a team. We want to collaborate together. So I want to throw out a few ideas about how to encourage that type of a culture. So the first one is cross-training, to encourage people to understand multiple roles. So for example, I'll use a shipping industry. I've worked with a couple of those. One thing that's always fascinating to me is that if you talk to people on the floor who are, for example, loading boxes or pallets into a truck, most of the time they haven't seen what happens on the other end in terms of unloading those boxes or unloading those pallets from the truck. Think for me with this for a second about why that might be problematic. I'll tell you why. From my perspective, it's because I don't know why I have to stack the box the way I have to stack it. Because I'm sitting here thinking about, well, it would be more efficient if I did it this way. But if you actually were to do the other job, if you were to be on the other side and you were to see how the boxes came out of the truck, it might change your perspective, right? The same could be true in your organizations. What's something that you do every day that maybe you don't see how the end user gets it, or maybe you don't see why you have to do it that way. So that's where cross-training can be really helpful, because we see multiple roles and it helps us to see ourselves as part of a bigger picture instead of just somebody doing an isolated job. And that's a really important goal and an important thing that we can do as leaders. The second thing we can do is these regular private management interviews that focus on development of employees. And I'm going to talk specifically about that in a second, but that's one that I want you to be thinking about, and we'll share some specific examples of that. The third one is this consistent and intentional company, social, and team building activities. So with this one, you could think about how how we could really focus in on getting people together and helping them to understand what other people are doing. And a lot of times this is about recognition of what people have done. So for example, I worked with one company that had what they called Praise Progress Friday, where it was all about everybody would go around the room and they'd share what had happened that week that had moved them forward. And a lot of times it involved other people. So for example, it was, hey, Jane helped me to finish out this project and we were able to accomplish this task. And so it was this praising progress. Another one I've seen is individual emails. There's one company I worked with that they had what they called kudos. And basically it was like an online, email system where they would submit a kudo and then it would go out to that person, and they were always anonymous. And one of the reasons they were anonymous is because they wanted you to walk around the organization saying, I wonder if Jeff sent me that. That was really nice. Or I wonder if she sent me that. That was really nice. So you kind of build that collaborate culture and you start to see each other in positive lights. The next one is the increased recognition of specific employees and highlighting contributions. And this really relates to those kudos ideas, to those praise progress idea. Those are all things that we can do to really recognize those kind of connections. So going back to the personal management interview ideas, this is a program that a lot of organizations have adopted. It kind of really became, I guess you would say, popular in the 80s and 90s around individualized interviews and experiences between leaders and employees. But I think that we've also refined that idea over the last 10 to 20 years. And so here's some kind of best practices from research and also from leaders in the field. The first one is you have to decide on the purpose of the interview and what's expected from both the manager and the employee. If I come in with a manager perspective and it's all my agenda, the employee is probably not going to feel very valued, and I'm not going to have that collaborative culture, right? We need to know both of our objectives, and we need to be open and transparent about it. If the employee has a problem in terms of their productivity, it does you no good to not tell them about that in the interview. You should let them know that, hey, I want to help you and support you to overcome this challenge. I just barely was talking to an employee in an organization where he was grateful that the manager had actually brought them in and said, hey, this is what we're looking at. I need you to be better in this area of your job. If we never say that, then the employee can never make any changes. So we have to come in with those specific ideas. You should also tie those specific ideas to organizational goals and desired outcomes. So if our organization is trying to move in direction X, but this person is really good at direction Y, we need to help them to see how they can move in direction X with the organization. You should also record what happens in this meeting as a guide for future meetings. If you don't do this, a lot of times these can just become one-off meetings. And listen, I think a lot of you are probably sitting there thinking, especially if you're managers, my goodness, I can barely remember what happened yesterday, let alone a quarterly meeting with an employee. That's where recording what happens is great. One thing that I've done in the past with people is I've actually had a Google Docs for each of them where it was kind of a live document where we recorded in the meeting what we were talking about and we made a couple of highlights. But then what we could also do with that Google Doc for every employee is we could have them put questions in so that for our next meeting, they're like, hey, yeah, like a month ago, I wanted to ask you this. I see it's on the Google Doc. Can we address that? Or, hey, I've already taken care of it. Don't worry about it. It becomes a living way to record what's going on with our people. The second one is that management interviews should be held regularly and in a private setting, meaning that, hey, these need to be consistent. And if they're not, then it doesn't allow for this development of a relationship, and it doesn't allow for them to feel like they're connected to you. And it also needs to be private because, number one, you need to build that deeper relationship, but number two, there might be some really sensitive things talked about that they wouldn't feel comfortable doing with other people. Some of the reasons that we hold these meetings: helping people to improve, building unity, providing opportunity for feedback, both for you to give them feedback, but also for them to give you feedback. And these meetings really shouldn't be long. We're talking 30 to 60 minutes at most. And again, this kind of depends on the size of your organization and the level and depth of the relationship that you need to have with individual team members. So then the final one, the third one, I just want to give you a few of these guidelines for the meeting. The first one is, of course, they should be regularly scheduled and seldom canceled. Another one of the problems that I've seen with organizations is they like this idea of these personal management interviews, and yet then they turn around and they cancel them every chance they get. Or because, of course, our lives are busy. These need to become a priority. Don't schedule them if you think there's a chance you're going to cancel it, because that sends a very clear message to your employees. Preparation for the meeting is required. I've even talked with managers who say, hey, I was doing this, but people came in, they didn't have any questions, so we just ended the meeting. Now, there's a couple of challenges with that. Basically, you're creating a culture of, well, if we don't have anything to say, I didn't pray anything, you didn't pray anything, let's just move on. But if you expect them to have something to say, they will. And so make sure that this idea of preparation for the meeting is required, is really followed through. It also should be open to any agenda item. They need to know that you can talk about anything. If they just want to talk about sports, that's fine. If they just want to talk about something specific in their team, that's great. But it needs to be open. Feedback for both parties is critical. So we also have to have dialogue. So after the meeting, if you feel like there needs to be a follow-up, that needs to happen. And again, this is where I go back to that really important idea of recording and keeping track of what's being said.